Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Minute. It's your daily show in which we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate The Last Jedi one nostalgic minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
And I'm Jordan D. White from Marvel Comics.
Yay.
Young up-and-coming company. I'm sure they're going to make a big splash.
You never know. We'll see how it goes.
Your appearance on the show is quite timely.
Oh.
Wow.
It isn't, though.
Do you see what you did there?
It doesn't, it's not a double entendre because the main one doesn't work.
I know.
All right, let's start over again.
Yeah, all right. It's a period of civil war.
Thanks for rejoining us, Jordan, here for The Last Jedi, Minute 61. Minute 61 starts off with Luke telling us about his nephew who was filled with mighty Skywalker blood. And mighty Bombad Skywalker blood. And it ends a minute later with the Terminator's hand breaking out of the rocks, showing that he, in fact, survived.
It should have been the end of the movie. Like, the end, question mark?
There's a lot of people who say that should have been the end of the movie.
Oh.
But anyway, we come here to analyze, not to...
Well, we can criticize isn't our mandate, but we're not... I do not want the movie to end like that. I just was referencing famous movie. What are some famous movie endings like that you can... I know, is it Friday the 13th, one of the famous ones where it's like...
He jumps out of the lake.
Right.
Carrie is probably the one you're thinking of.
Right. Yeah,
she jumps out of the grave.
Right.
Yeah. Just her hand, right?
I think so, right?
Yeah.
Sounds right.
Right.
Yeah.
Although I haven't watched the remake, so maybe she just fully jumps out like, ta-da!
I haven't either. Or the one that wasn't called the remake that actually was. The one that was a sequel, except it was the same plot.
Right.
Carry On. British version of it.
Right.
So Luke tells us the kind of what's the deal is here with why Kylo Ren is such a jerk and why why Luke doesn't want to train him. Excuse me, although you can understand how I could make that mistake.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting comparing this version of a failed Jedi explaining what happened with Ben Kenobi's version of events, which is obviously a bit. We learned that both versions are a bit not quite accurate.
Yeah. Well, from a certain point of view. But, Luke is much, as far as we know, Kylo Ren has not created as much destruction as Darth Vader did, despite his, I'm sure he would like to have, but he hasn't.
Well, the problem is, how do you judge credit? Like, Vader did a lot of stuff, but he didn't do a lot of stuff because he wanted to. Like, he just no offense to him, but he only did what he was told. He followed orders. Hey, go kill all those people. And he's like, yeah, all right. I got nothing better to do. Yeah. We're joking, but he has nothing in his life. And he's like, I guess I'll kill everyone if that's what you want me to do. Sure.
Right.
Whereas Kylo is definitely angrier, and I feel like in a certain way, I feel like he's more actively angrier. He chooses to do bad things more than Vader does, I think, because I think Vader is doing it out of despair.
And I guess in The Force Awakens, we saw that Kylo Ren was like, I'm so sick that I'm trying to be good. I want to be bad. Like he's actively wanting to be evil. Whereas at least the way it's presented, Anakin almost gets tricked into it by Palpatine, saying like, oh, it'll save your wife's life. That kind of. Kylo Ren doesn't even have that. He has no benefit toward this other than just being a bad, tough guy.
Well, and being like, that's his, it's not, I don't think it's so much that he's sick of doing good. He's like, he wants that to be his thing. He's like, oh, I want to be bad. Like I'm deciding to be, and he's fighting, his internal struggle is that he's not really bad, but he's trying really hard to be. So it's like, he's protesting too much. He's like, no, look, I could be bad. Look at how bad I can be. But I think in the long run, he's not doing as much. Granted, he hasn't been. Year one. I know that's the other company, Year One. But year one of Kylo Ren is much less destructive to the galaxy than year one of Darth Vader.
Well, and here's the thing. I don't want to talk about this too much because I don't love being negative, especially about things that people I know worked on.
Sure.
The more that I've heard, the more that we've found out about Kylo Ren year one, the less bad it is.
Right.
They did a miniseries about it in the comics, and he's not that bad. Like they tamed it down a lot. In a moment, jump forward a minute, they're going to say, "Oh, he killed all they don't show us him killing all those people. They show him like going off and like people start dying kind of because of him, but not like he murders them. It's like other people murder them and he doesn't stop them, or other people murder, or they die by accident and he's
conveniently
like,
fall down an elevator shaft while
stuff like that. And then when he actually starts actively killing in this miniseries, the people he kills are not good. Like it's like he kills the head of the Knights of Ren, who is evil.
Yeah. Was that because you think they were like, well, if the third act is going to be this guy turning back into a good guy, we can't have him killing. Like, you can do that retroactively with Darth Vader, but it's not like going into Return of the Jedi. We were all like, boy, that guy slaughtered a bunch of children. You know what I mean? We only found out about that after the fact, so his redemption was marginally believable. But if they were going to do that now, it would be he killed Han Solo, for crying out loud.
Right.
Yeah.
And the answer is I don't know. I mean, because when they did that miniseries, it was in the lead up to Episode 9, so they definitely knew. He's going to be, spoilers, good in the end. So they knew he was on that road. So probably, they were probably. I mean, again, now I want to clarify. I have worked on a ton of Star Wars comics, not since before this movie came out. So. I was not involved in this comic in any way. I don't have any inside intel. I'm speculating just like any fan would. So I don't know, but I'm assuming they were going, he's going to be good. We don't really want to do a mini about him murdering children the way that we would with Darth Vader sometimes. In the same way that that's the way it always is. When you have a character that turns good, they never want them to be that bad. Same with Solo, which I love. But, Han Solo was a bad guy before he was a good guy. Well, he wasn't that bad. Right. The story of Solo is he was kind of always good.
He wavers sometimes, but generally he's neutral good.
Well, so all of this goes to my point that I was coming around to, that the year one of Kylo Ren not so bad. Like what we've seen of Kylo Ren, like he's evil, but he's not like he's not been the menace to the galaxy yet that Darth Vader has. And yet here, Luke is just like, he's driving himself crazy and goes into hiding, whereas Obi-Wan's just like, oopsie, I created a monster. Obi-Wan's just kind of like, yeah, my bad. I wasn't, sometimes people are evil. What are you going to do? Like, he's a little more kind of, casual in his description of this, like, oh yeah, I used to teach that guy. Evil now, but
it's the failure of the classic Jedi is so much bigger than the failure of Luke. So much bigger. And Luke takes it way more hard than they did.
Well, I suppose Obi-Wan had kind of once you have the sort of big, he can take his personal stake out of it because he was part of a big thing. I was part of the Jedi. I did exactly what you're supposed to do with the Padawan, and he turned evil. Whereas Luke kind of was just making this up as he went along. He didn't really have I don't know. Maybe it's revealed that Yoda and Obi-Wan gave him like the syllabuses, the syllabi of what he was supposed to be teaching.
The books, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The sacred text.
But you say he did what he was supposed to. He didn't, though, because Obi-Wan defied the will of the council, or rather, Qui-Gon defied the will of the council, and Obi-Wan followed up on it, and the council went, I guess.
Yeah. It was a weakness.
The big thing
Liam Neeson
that,
having too much time to kill. Liam Neeson had more jobs than he only would have been a tiny part in Episode 1, and it totally would have been Obi-Wan's.
That would have been better.
If
I don't know if this is my head canon or if this is accepted canon that obviously, well, I don't know if this is true. Then maybe it is headcanon that Obi-Wan and Yoda have to have gone through some sort of internal reckoning where they went, yeah, we were a little wrong. let's show Luke a slightly different way.
Right.
But they don't. I mean, right? Because that's the whole thing is Luke wins
by doing something different than what they recommend.
Yeah, by going against them, by saying, you know what I like? Attachments, connections. That's what it's all about.
Although, they could have just been like, oh, what are we going to do? Do like kill all the Jedi again? Like, it's like, how bad could
What's
it go?
the list that can happen?
Yeah.
Well, that happens.
Yeah.
That happens. So there we go.
Well,
it takes a little while.
It's nice to think that once they become part of the Force, that then they're like, they kind of see the big picture and they're like, oh, okay, it doesn't matter. Like this little nickel and dime stuff in the big picture is pebbles in a stream. It's unimportant.
It's not until this movie that Yoda seems to go, yeah, we were wrong, man.
Yeah. Right.
And only after it's way too late to help Luke. Luke is like, he's like, yeah, you failed utterly. That's kind of what we all do. Don't worry about it. Like, hopefully she won't. Great. Yeah. Great. Thanks, guy. Good teacher.
Maybe it's like Dr. Manhattan, where they he kind of knew it, but he couldn't say it until it actually happened. That this, I don't know.
Right.
I have a couple questions about this minute.
Oh, yes. Sure.
First one is,
that's why we're here.
Han was Han about it. What does that mean?
I like that line.
It's a cute line and it's a fun line, and I think we all. Speaking for myself, I go, yeah, and then I went again watching it minute by minute and thinking about it. I was like, what does that even mean? What did he do that was Han about it?
Well, I take it to mean, it's like it's original recipe Han, not original, not Alden Ehrenreich Han, but like when we first meet Han Solo in Star Wars kind of vibe of him being kind of skeptical, rolling his eyes at the whole thing. They're like, yeah, we're gonna, he's like, oh, we're gonna, like our son is strong in the Force, we're gonna teach him. And he's like, all right, I'm picturing I feel like there's a strong tradition and it's waning gradually as the generations go on. But I feel like a lot of, at least in my experience, Italian Catholics, which is like my side of half of my family, the mothers are very much more into kind of indoctrinating their children into the religion, whereas the fathers are just kind of like, oh yeah, it's got him. I bought him a suit, they're less enthused. They're just like, yeah, it's good for. It's good for him, sure, whatever. They're not like into the whole thing, whereas I feel like it's generalizing, but at least in my experience, it seems more like that. And this, I that struck me as that, because I totally picture like my uncle, uncle being Han Solo, being like, oh yeah, we sent him to a Force school or something. I don't know.
Okay, you know what? That I 100% buy that. That is great. I love it. Because again, I was a little confused. I was just like, what? My other question was, why does Luke stop wearing fake skin? Like, it was really good fake skin. It looked just like a hand, because it was. So like, yeah, it feels weird that he would be like, because I know it doesn't get damaged, but like that was a long ass time ago. He had plenty of time to go back to 2-1B and be like, just put another layer on there.
It's funny that you said that, because I thought about that also, and the solution I came up with was, hey, are you authorized to give out no prizes in your capacity?
I have one around here somewhere, but it's mine, and I'm not giving it to
you. But maybe after the whole thing with Darth Vader, it was almost like him putting the flesh-colored hand over his robot hand was his way of denying, like, Darth Vader is not a part of me. I am a person. I am not a cyborg. But then after that, he's like, you know what? I got to come to terms with the fact that this is a part of me. And therefore, I'm not going to cover it up mostly, except when I go fishing or whatever.
Because I don't want to get wet. I love it. Right. That's great.
So, or just to remind him, that you're always capable of that. That is always a part of you. That you can always become evil at any point. So watch yourself.
Robots aren't evil.
Wow.
There's lots of robots and they're all mostly fine. It's to make him think of 3PO. That's the real reason. He's like, I remember that guy.
Oh, you probably don't recognize me because of my metal hand. But
that kept happening to him every time he had the skin on and he could go into town and caretakers would be like, who the heck is this guy? Fine.
Or maybe it's like just him being around the salt water. It just doesn't survive well.
Oh, no, because he doesn't have it when he confronts Ben.
Oh, right.
Well, yeah, I had to go back at first. I was like, oh, wait, is that part of the confrontation? Does it like burn off in the thing? But no, even when he's as we'll see later from Ben's point of view, when he first is struggling with it and ignites the green, as it were, he
must be. Maybe it's that. Yeah, maybe then it's that he was like, I want to not wear this fake skin so that it's clear to the Jedi kids, like, this is dangerous. Like, I lost a hand.
That's the equivalent of that. And that's why you don't get into a lightsaber fight with Darth Vader.
Yep.
That's why you finish your training, kids.
So the other, going back to the Han line for a second, the thing about Han being Han, the thing I like about it as a line is that it kind of leaves it up to the audience. It makes you laugh because the audience makes the jump of picturing what that can be rather than showing Han doing something. We can all kind of put whatever our own version of that is in there.
Right.
So
Although I do love the idea of, like, if you jumped on, if this was the first movie that you saw, that would be a weird. You'd be like, "What does Han was Han about it mean? Is that like a greeting of some sort?" But then also, even if the first, I'm sure there's a lot of people who maybe came into this with The Force Awakens, and to them, Han was Han about it. Might just be like, "Well, yeah, he seemed to be. What would he?" I mean,
because he was very reverent of the Force in that.
Yeah. I mean, he was a little bit, saying he used to not believe it, but he seemed, he was with it. Why would he be Han about? What is Han being Han about? Maybe he was.
In retrospect, you'd expect Han to be more bitter about the Force in The Force Awakens.
Right.
Because the Force took his son from him. So you'd think he'd be more like, those Jedi are a bunch of jerks.
Or the Force didn't take his son from him. It was Snoke!
Right. That's interesting, though, because, well, I don't know. Okay.
Well, I think it's weird that he's saying this to Rey. Like it's almost like he's saying that more to the audience who know Han Solo, whereas Rey spent a couple of hours with him, like on a
they got close.
Trip. Yeah, that's her father figure, though, essentially. Her previous father figure.
Yeah, I guess then that kind of fills it. She fills, I guess, on the long flight over here, long and difficult journey, Chewbacca probably filled him in on a lot of stories.
In this universe, you form father figures quickly. It happened to Luke. It happened to Rey. It's devastating. You lose them a couple hours later. Devastating. One thing I thought was fun. So that Han line actually definitely fits this thing, which is that I feel like this Luke, this version of Luke, is the most Mark Hamill-y Luke. By which I mean, like, I feel like it brings out his personality, because in the time between his first Star Wars movies and this one, I've seen him talk about things, and he's kind of a funny, goofy guy,
Yeah.
And this gives him, Luke, the opportunity to be that a little bit, which is funny because he's like dour, sad Luke, which is why the people who don't like it. But I saw a lot of funny Mark Hamill in it, and that moment was one of those moments.
Yeah, I think, it's multi-layered, because I think it's this version of Luke is well suited to Mark Hamill now, and including up to then add a layer of maybe, he doesn't necessarily want that to be the character that's suited for him now. He was like, all right, he was as we've heard a little bit of, I think it's way overstated, but we've heard a little bit of him grumbling about the direction of the character, his initial idea for the direction of the character, and that it fits. That makes this performance even better, because it blends into it. It's like, oh, I wanted to be the hero who pops in and saves the day. I wanted to be, Superman essentially, but that's not where Luke should be, and that makes it better for Mark Hamill, and even if that's a little bit disappointing to him.
I mean that whole thing is it's obviously a point of huge controversy. I said I left the Star Wars books, like, I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was right before this movie came out, right before, because I worked on a lot of the stuff. You know what? I'm wrong. Actually. Now that I've said that, I lied. It was after this movie came out. It just wasn't hugely long after this movie came out, because I worked on stuff that was related to this movie for sure. And I just remembered that I definitely worked a little bit on the adaptation. So I know it must have been soon after it came out. But anyway, what I was trying to say was...
So did you know the story before you went in?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I
remember being at Celebration, and we were... I think it was this movie. Yeah, it had to have been. And it was irritating but understandable that you and Nathan Hamill went off and had a sidebar. And because it was right before the movie had come out, and you were like, oh, and wait a minute. And you guys went off to the side somewhere and had a conversation. I was like, well, I like Star Wars. Oh.
Yeah,
nerds only.
Yeah.
I got to read the screenplay for this one. I got to read the screenplay for Solo. Solo was the last one I knew going into. I knew absolutely zero about Rise of Skywalker when I saw it.
Yeah.
Partially because when I left the franchise, I don't think anyone involved knew what it was about.
I was going to say, you weren't the only one.
Yeah. Some might say that they still don't have any idea what it's about, and they've seen the movie, but I love the movie.
But what I was going to say was when I left the franchise, I don't want to get negative, and I don't want anybody to have to get negative. But I will say, like, there has been a lot of turmoil in Star Wars fandom, and anger and bitterness and unpleasantness. And I got out before any of that started. So I only ever had really nice experiences with Star Wars fans and had wonderful time. Every time I've gone to Celebration, I've loved it, etc. But this is the movie that really divides people, and kind of starting with, even there are sort of like some stereotypy places that it divides, where you can like easily go, oh, this kind of person doesn't like that, and this kind of person likes that. But even aside from all of that, even aside from that part of it, this particular thing, how they treated Luke, is very divisive. Like, I have very good friends who love Star Wars who just can't get past that. They're just like, no, Luke was the hero. Like, he would never be a mopey guy.
Are these people young? I can see believing that when you were like in your 20s, but by the time you're like an old person like I am, or like you guys are getting, you could totally see how someone when they were younger could be a totally cool action-oriented guy, and then 25 years later, they're totally beaten down by life. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Well, but they want him to be the one who overcomes and who is the hero who gets past all that. And and again, I get that. I don't know. I thought it worked. I thought it made sense. And especially because it reckons with the prequels, and not in a very direct way, but in that big controversy of the contradiction, I should say, of the prequels, where we spent the original 3 going, Jedi are the awesome guys who are the good guys. And then we watch the prequels and we go, oh, they're wrong all the time. Oh, no.
Well, yeah, I wonder if, in a related matter, if for some crazy reason the prequels had come out first and then they waited 20 years and then episode 4 came out, would they have been like, well, Obi-Wan's just sitting in the desert that whole time? He wasn't going out and trying to overthrow the Empire? He's just sitting there doing nothing? Like, would they have been, I guess they probably would have been outraged about that too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of the, as I've said, a lot of the, I can't think of any criticism of these sequel movies that could not also be levied at least one part of the original trilogy. There are very few things that are just like, out of the blue, kind of like, oh, we did this, and it's like, well, that sucks. But it's like, well, they did that originally too. It's just you're used to it.
Yeah, that is the dark secret of Star Wars that I have embraced wholeheartedly. All the Star Wars movies are dumb. Every single one of them, up to and including my favorite ones. They're all dumb. They don't
now
make sense.
You tell us.
But that doesn't make them any less wonderful and awesome. And that's why even the worst ones I have watched more times than I should have. So, there you go.
So I think I don't remember, it was last week, a couple of weeks ago, we were discussing how long has Luke been in exile? How long has he been? How long has Kylo Ren been Kylo Ren and all that stuff? And according to the novelization, it's been 6 years since.
That's it?
Yeah. Well, he's only supposed to be like 25 years old or something.
And he was 19 when he turned? I thought he was younger. Honestly, I thought he was like 16,
it feels
17.
like it should be, but it can't be that. Like, if he's still wrestling with it, it can't have been that much. You know what I mean?
Right.
It can't have been that much earlier. So, it's very odd. But also, that means that Luke was training Jedis for like 15 years before this whole happened. So,
well, not quite yet, right? Because he doesn't say he's going off and training new Jedi. He says, I opened up a school and I had about a dozen students. But inspired by the birth and the emergence of Ben Solo. He's like, oh, he's really got it. He's got the Force thing. Let's go. All right, I'll start a school.
So you think in The Mandalorian, he has not started school yet?
Exactly.
Oh, right.
That's what I was going to say. That's 5 years later, and he's picking up a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a baby. He's an old man, but you know what I mean.
From a certain point of view.
Yeah, he's both.
So it just made me wonder if there were other... Were there other Jedi he trained that presumably were not all killed by Kylo Ren?
Right.
So
well, and I had that for a note for tomorrow, but again, we can talk about Wither Grogu. Wither Grogu in all this. Because he says, I took a dozen students, which I wanted to come back to because it's also, oh, look at that. Maybe your appearance on the show is timely because we're talking about the 12, which was a whole big X-Men thing for a long time. And I love that little, like, I love that kind of world building where it's saying, like, okay, you've got this character and he's part of a finite number of things, and we're not going to tell you about the other things. And that's like open pasture. Go for it. Like anybody that wants to play in there, go for it. I love that kind of a setup. I forgot exactly how the 12 resolved, and I think I don't know if it has. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't remember exactly.
But it totally reminded me of X-Men and stuff like that, which I love, just jumping into, midstream, jumping into a story, into a long saga, and then being like, okay, well, this character that is part of this, and there's more of it, and everybody can speculate, and then eventually people will play in there and fill some stuff in as need be.
Yeah, that's the fun of it. That's the fun of it. The more I think about this, the less I like that timeline, though. That's terrible because now that would be saying he blows up. Well, he doesn't blow up Death Star 2. He defeats Darth Vader. He defeats who defeats the Emperor. He thought.
Yeah,
he barely escapes Death Star 2.
I don't even think he defeats Darth Vader. I think he totally.
He saves Darth Vader. Sorry, he saves Anakin Skywalker.
He whines until Darth Vader does something.
He helps Darth Vader. He doesn't blow up the Death Star.
Wow, he really accomplishes nothing. I don't know why people thought he was the hero of this. This is crazy.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying. He does all this stuff. They overthrow the Empire. A government is established. I'm assuming he's not super involved in the government because it doesn't seem like his thing, but maybe he was. Who knows? Yeah. And he waits 15 years to even start training Jedi? Like, what the heck is he doing all that time? The idea that 15 years later he's got 12 students, I'm like, get out of here. It's a huge galaxy full of people who are Force sensitive, probably. A lot of them.
Yeah. I figured there must have been some time for him to research how to do it. He probably talked to other, he probably went to like Chiro Imwe's people and said like, hey, well, how do you get, he probably had to do a little bit of research.
We did set up, one of the things that I got to set up, help set up in Star Wars was in our Darth Vader book, the Darth Vader series that Charles Soule wrote that took place immediately following Revenge of
the Sith?
Yes, Revenge of the Sith. I just can't remember any of it.
Rise as soon as you Revenge.
I'm not supposed to swear. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
You just erased all your Star Wars knowledge as soon as you're done with the books. Anyway,
Revenge of the Sith. Yes, following that. It's in the times when Darth Vader's like killing Jedi and stuff.
Yeah.
We did a story arc where he's tracking down and trying to kill Jocasta Nu. That was super fun. And while she does die, we do say that she got away. She was able to store away a huge amount of Jedi knowledge from the Jedi library in the temple and locks it away in a cave. And the last page of that arc is it sitting in a cave that nobody interrupts. And then it like jumps forward a bunch of years and you get one panel of Luke opening up the cave, and so it's like, oh, he got all that knowledge that Jocasta Nu saved, and it was pretty sweet. That was pretty neat. So presumably he did have to seek a bunch of stuff like that out in order to start it. So I guess it's okay.
Plus he had to go pick up power converters. Luke, he's so easily distracted.
He finally did that. Do you guys know the Tashi Station song that the Gregory brothers did?
Yes, I do know that one.
I love it. It literally is like 15 to 20 minutes long. and it's just they made the Tashi Station bit into songified it using like autotune and stuff, and then they just keep doing new verses where it's other scenes in the movie where they're talking about this, blah, 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 and then it goes into, but I was going to Tashi Station every single time. And it's the dumbest thing in the world, and I love it, and I will listen to all 20 minutes every time it comes on.
Check it out, yeah. So I just want to comment briefly on the flashback we see. This is the first of 3 flashbacks we see of Luke's story. And so I guess this is supposed to be 6 years ago. And
I'm looking for confirmation on that behind the scenes here.
Okay.
It's 28 ABY is the destruction of the temple.
Yeah.
So 6 years after that would be what, 34?
Yeah.
Is that when this happens?
I think that's when Force Awakens is supposed to, because that was 34 years after Return of the Jedi, right? Isn't that the gimmick?
34 years later.
0.
No, but I mean, isn't...
Yes. 34 years later, Snap Wexley gets married. That's what we all...
That's the reference you're citing.
I worked on that comic too.
34 ABY, Commander Poe Dameron receives a piece of the map that could lead to Luke Skywalker and gives it to BB-8 before being captured by the First Order and imprisoned on the Resurgent Star Destroyer class Star Destroyer Finalizer. Okay, so that is 6 years after the destruction of the Jedi Temple in 28 ABY.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Because it doesn't look like it's like you would expect it to look like Luke circa Mandalorian era. You expect him to be a lot younger there, but he looks virtually the same. And
again, if
most of the
we're
6
saying
years don't make that much of a difference.
If we're saying Kylo was 18 or 19, that does mean that he started the temple probably. What is it? I mean, again, they start Jedi young, right? So did he start the temple 15 years earlier?
Jedi start Jedi young. We don't know what Luke's deal is.
That's true. That's true.
Right. He's much more relaxed in that. Yeah, just show up when you want.
Yeah, we got this guy Guru. He's 50 years old. We let him in.
I'm looking for what?
Do you consider that? So that's the first flashback in the saga. There were flashbacks in Rogue One.
I guess technically when Rey picked up the lightsaber, she saw a bunch of crazy stuff.
But that's a vision, and she saw that in that moment. She's not seeing this, presumably. I am assuming she doesn't actually see this moment.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess that would be more of an internal thing, and this is more of a
just for the viewer.
It's not an objective flashback because that's part of the whole thing about this is we don't really know exactly what does happen. So Rashomon kind of
there's a word for
conflicting stories.
Right.
Unreliable narrators.
But there's a word for, is it diegetic or non-diegetic? This is not because that's for the music, whether it's music that the characters hear or just music that the audience hears. And that's the same with this flashback. The Rey flashback is a vision she experiences. This is something that is just purely for the viewers.
Right.
That's like, it breaks a rule. Like this breaks a rule. Star Wars has never done that in 7 films. And I don't think they do it in 9.
I think Star Wars breaks its own rules all the time. We have we have shots in the Phantom Menace, which are like from C-3PO's point of view.
I was on for that minute.
Yeah.
So there's all, for all the rules they come up with, there's always, and I'm fine with it. We gotta, if the thing is going to be a vital living franchise, you have to permit it to adapt to new things. But everyone's different.
Yeah, but where's the line going to be drawn? Is interesting. I agree. I'm fine with it too, especially because here it's for a storytelling purpose, it makes total sense. But where's the line going to be drawn? Like what? When are we going to get the Jedi jumps up and then everything freezes in slow motion? We get like a bullet time. The camera moves.
We're totally going to get that.
Confessionals. I want confessionals in episode 10.
Oh man, that'd be great.
Once this whole generation of kids raised by Zack Snyder movies starts making movies, you're totally going to see bullet time and all sorts of crazy, which I'm fine with. Bring it.
We'll see.
See, okay. Am I wrong that I feel like even these ones, and even the prequels, well, did the prequels ever really have, yeah, I'm sure they did. Did they really suffer from video game-itis? Like, they did a little bit.
To the extent that they could, I think. Like, the the infamous
The
droid factory is very, but it's not like
true.
the Hobbit level of
Right,
of
but that's
video
that's
gamer.
exactly what I mean. Like there are a
Yeah.
lot of movies where like you get 100% CGI scenes and you just especially the way the camera moves through them, it's just goes this is not being filmed in reality. This is not depicting reality. It's depicting a thing in a stylized way that you can like. I'm not saying it's automatically bad.
Right.
But it steps out of being a thing that could be observed, and Star Wars tries at least to feel like it's staying in that. No?
For the most part, I think not to our favorite whipping, our favorite subject of derision, the Attack of the Clones. It does, to go back to that. It does, the droid factory sequence, and then later that battle. Very much at points, I'm just like, oh, I'm watching the Clone Wars. You know what I mean? I'm watching a CGI cartoon of a battle.
Although even the Clone Wars is 100% CGI, but they don't get nutty with the like. Let's film it in a way that you can't film in life. You know what I mean? I feel like they try to shoot it like, well, if there was a camera, they would set it up here and they would point it at that. Like they wouldn't fly it through a pinhole. You know what I mean? Like there are things nowadays that do that. We fly around someone's eye and then we go in their ear and out the other ear and you're like, well, that can't happen. And that can be, again, it can be fun.
Right.
It's just not very Star Wars.
Right. It's a certain style that doesn't match what we've said. And again, I think I don't know what they're going to do as far as the way they're going to kind of lay stuff out and brand stuff moving forward. But I think that having just like the comics having kind of a main saga arc, and then you have these kind of miniseries or the anthology films where you can try new things in there. That makes more sense to me. Being like, oh well, we'll have we want to we'll get all crazy in the Boshek movie, but then the next regular Star Wars movie it'll be in the language of
more
Star
conservative in the more traditional in the main saga.
How long do you think it's going to be for episode 10? And again, just to make sure this is out there, I have not heard from Lucasfilm that there's going to be an episode 10. When I was there, they never talked about another continuing the saga. Ever.
I'm going to say 2026.
That's soon. That's sooner than I would have expected, to be honest with you. I would say probably more like 2030 myself.
Okay.
Well,
Pete, you want to weigh in? Because we know someone will check back on this and bring this up.
I know. I think I'm gonna $1 you and go 2027 because that's the 50th anniversary.
Oh, duh. Yeah.
So
that's
50th
good.
anniversary, come back with a new saga piece.
Yeah,
there was
but
a
you're saying
rumor.
episode 10, not reboots or anything like that.
Right.
Okay.
Episode 10.
There was a rumor I heard not through my Lucasfilm stuff, but through other people outside of Star Wars people, before The Force Awakens came out, that said that people were saying the biggest spoiler is going to be the first second because the credits are going to start rolling and it's going to say episode 10. And it was like, when I heard that idea, I was like, what? That cannot be. Well, just because like it's unexpected. Like people were going like,
love that.
You would have loved that?
I would
You
love
would have
if they
liked
left a gap in between
Right.
to allow for other things. So.
Right. Well, there's a gap, but not a numerical gap.
Right,
There's a time gap which we can fill in, but you think they should have left room there. It's like programming in binary. You don't do 1, 2, 3. You do 10, 20, 30. So if you need to go back and add in some stuff.
Yeah. I think all along the episode, if I was a king, all the episodes would have been like episode 1, and then episode 2 would have been like episode 6 to allow for like things
That's
of
a fun
Anakin
idea.
growing up. But
That's a
people in
very fun idea.
The audience would be totally confused.
here's what we'll do. We'll just
Only
do
odd numbered episodes.
We'll just do Dewey Decimal episodes where we could just keep going longer numbers. It's great.
Episode 2.473.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, it's a 2 series. I'll go see those.
Episode pi.
Right. I want to amend my earlier statement, programming in basic, not binary. I know all the droids out there were just flipping out. They're like, wait a minute. You can't have a 3? Anyway.
I knew that. I just didn't want to embarrass you.
I know.
Yeah, the load lifters were furious.
Yeah. They're always furious, though.
Anything else for minute 61? We got some more Luke Ray explanations coming up tomorrow, assuming you can come back, Jordan.
Yeah, I'll find a way.
Okay, good. That's the enthusiasm we'd like to hear. Pete, can you come back tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, good.
I can.
Well, listener, we hope you'll be back tomorrow, and we hope you joined us yesterday, assuming you were a Patreon supporter. And if you're not one, why the heck not? You could get bonus episodes on Saturdays and Sundays. You could get art prints by me. You could go to a sporting game with Pete. All sorts of crazy things you can get by being a Patreon. So go to StarWarsMinute.com/Patreon, see what we have to offer, help support the show, and we'd really appreciate it. And we'd appreciate it if you come back tomorrow for another Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars
Minute.